The area of specialization is telecoms at a time when telecom seems to be one of the fastest growing sectors across Africa. Just give us a sense of what you do and how you're capitalizing on these growth opportunities.
Thank you. We play in electronics and electrical components, whether it's products, solutions and services, into the telecommunications sector, also security sector. We have an investment in a power cable manufacturing company, which also manufactures telecommunication cables. And yes, telecommunications is a growing market, South Africa as well as Africa, especially on the wireless side into Africa, and we capitalize as we play in the access network, so we can sell you anything that you require to build a base station.
Okay, everybody's talking about the move into data services and the need for wireless solutions. So tell us what you're doing in terms of coming up with wireless solutions.
Yeah, the broader the access to broadband is, or the more you can get broadband, you can use more of your data services, voice services, and even image services such as video. Now, to get that out to people, there's either fixed line or you go wireless. And in Africa, with the lack of fixed line networks, wireless are the solutions. And there are a number of solutions, of which WiMAX is one that we offer to our clients in Africa.
Okay.
The wireless side is the African growth side. So for voice, it's GSM. For broadband, you will go with the more faster solutions. The advent of the underwater cables around Africa increases that broadband all around. We know that there's rollouts in East Africa, there's rollouts in South Africa coming, which will then give the user a lot more capability of getting to this broadband, and wireless will be one of those.
All right, now what we see is a proliferation of SMMEs in terms of coming up with wireless solutions, but the big players are still the major operators. We're talking Zain and Bharti earlier on, we're talking MTN, and there are calls for a greater need for some kind of a synergy between the SMME, what you do in terms of wireless solutions and electronics components, and the operator. And that's how people see the consolidation of telecoms moving forward, is you provide services to the major operators who have big rollout strategies.
Yeah, and certainly there are a number of customers, smaller clients, that your big operators won't get to, that you would be using, the smaller, call it second tier companies that can get closer to the smaller user and offer the services that these big operators put together, but they can't get to those customers. And for that reason, you have the value added resellers, both in Africa as well as in South Africa, that will move closer and closer in working relationship with the main operators. But those main operators will be the people that drive the broadband capacity in Africa.
All right, now you've got a very strong BEE component to your business. You've partnered with Community Investment Holdings and also with Afrocentric. Just tell us about those relationships. Yeah,
we entered into the first transaction in 2003 with Community Investment Holdings, which is owned by Dr. Anna Mokokong and German Ngandaba. We increased their stake during that period, but in 2008 we acquired our stake in MTech, the power manufacturing company, or power cable manufacturing company, and at the same time we increased our BEE shareholding through the advent of bringing in Afrocentric to 60% BEE ownership in Jasco. We also believe in the broad-based black economic empowerment, and for that we've done quite a lot of work to now be able to rate ourselves as a number 3 contributor, or level 3 contributor, or AA.
Okay, sounds good. Just tell us about your relationship with MTech and power cabling manufacturing, because here you've got an Asian component to your business.
Yeah, MTech, it's a factory in Vereniging, manufactures power cable, telecommunication cable. We own 50% of the shareholding there, together with a company called Taihan Electrical Wire Company from Taihan. They bring the technical expertise. They also manage the company in South Africa, and it's one of the major cable manufacturers on the African continent.
Okay.
And infrastructure build, obviously, both on the power side, Eskom rolling out, on the telecommunication side with the fiber and copper telecoms. We're well positioned to take advantage of infrastructure spend in Africa, and specifically South Africa.
Right, Sasha, what do you make of Jasco's profile?
I'd just be interested to know how have your clients been spending through this time? There's obviously must have been a pretty, people maybe delaying certain projects that they would have, and are they starting to creep back in slowly?
Excuse me. The first slowdown that we saw was in the power cable side, or the cable manufacturing side, and the small division that we have in domestic, which is directly consumer facing. And those are the two divisions that we see coming back, slowly rising or raising their revenues as well as profitability. We saw the delay in the security side of major projects over the last year and a half or so. A lot more tenders talked about, and not the expenditure yet, but one can see there's a lot more movement taking place. And then in telecommunications, we all know that it has slowed down a bit in the last couple of months. It's probably the last of the sectors that has been hit by the economic crisis. But there's a lot of work still to be done in Africa, especially with the low teledensity that has to take place. And then the advent of broadband.
Staying on that Africa theme, how do you see your revenue split South Africa versus the rest of Africa in the next 5 years?
If we just look at the telecommunications side, we would expect more than 50% from the Africa side on telecommunications. Most rollouts are taking place in Africa, a lot more than in Africa itself. Although now in Africa and South Africa, we know about Cell C wants to roll out a network. Telkom themselves is rolling out their wireless network. So there's some work in South Africa, but the majority remains in Africa.
Absolutely. And just a final input from you. Many people are looking at what's the next big thing in South Africa, because we've got 3 network operators within the wireless and telecom space, but 2 dominant players in the form of MTN and Vodacom. The market is set to be really quite saturated, and just in terms of recouping investments, there are a lot of issues with the regulator right now with interconnect fees, and people are wondering what's next for South Africa, and is there much more that can be done within this market?
I think the fact that Cell C is still independent shows you that there's space for more than the 2 big operators. I think the driver now will be the broadband capacity that's coming around. That means that you can offer broadband to a lot more customers because it's available, and in that will be a lifeline. Data services as well as the video services will become product offering by these companies, which will enhance their earnings again and therefore allow them to be mostly independent.